private health insurance, as she has said in the past. She's not going to run on what she has stated in the past to decriminalize illegal immigration, free food, housing, health care, education, sex change operations, and a path to citizenship, or banning fracking, banning offshore drilling. So she...
Dude, conservative commentary is so awesome. Like, why the f am I dealing with all these dumb bitches up my ass all the time, lying on my name, smearing myself, when I could just be like fucking conservative and just say whatever the fuck I want and just receive admiration from the dumbest motherfuckers out there. Unlimited dollars, ain't nobody yelling at me about anything. Like, look at what just Sean Hannity said. Okay, look at what he just said. Like, yeah, Kamala Harris wants to do transgender surgeries on frackers that are crossing the border illegally. What's up with that? Of course, she's going to have a hard time dealing with, you know, any kind of slight pushback. It's like, what are you saying? It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to make sense. It's so easy. It's so fucking easy. You just sit there and you're like, Trump good. Okay. Trump good. I will say whatever fucking unhinged ass shit you've ever heard in your entire life. That's your future career when you fall off. Yeah. It's just funny because everyone is always saying that it's going to happen one day. Like, I'm inevitably going to fall off. The fall off is inevitable. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And then I'll be right wing. And then all the people that were like praying for my downfall will become my lovers, I guess.
She has to, you know, give us word salads because she won't tell us how she really feels. She's hiding her true beliefs. Well, Donald Trump doesn't do that.
Well, first of all, that's a very long question. Let's get to it. Number one, yeah, you talk about what she's doing. Bottom line is this: as Vice President of the United States, it wasn't her job to lead. She has to go along with the program. You are a support base. You support the person that is in charge, who happened to be Joe Biden. That's number one. Number two, I know you're not talking about somebody being lucid and cogent and enunciating their thoughts with clarity, and you're bragging about Donald Trump. We can't be watching the same stuff if that's what you're doing. You ain't gonna do that today.
You know
now,
what?
Lindsey Graham, hold it. Now, Senator Lindsey Graham is about to come on this show.
Let me tell you something.
That man can articulate himself very well. Not Donald Trump now.
I have sat with him for hour after hour after hour, topic after topic after topic, and he is so dialed in. Really? Look, you know, it's funny. People try. This is like the latest argument. And meanwhile, your friends in the Democratic Party, they ignored the obvious, significant, deep cognitive decline of the president for over 4 years. I said it before the 2020 election. Kamala to this day say, oh, Joe was really cognitively alert. You know that's a crock. I know that's a crock.
What is she supposed to say, Sean?
Knows it's a crock. Not Donald Trump.
Sean, what is it? Hold on. What is she supposed to say? She's supposed to sit up there and say, you know what, my president, my boss.
Truth.
I mean, there was cognitive decline there. No, you're not. No, you don't do that. You don't dime out your book. You don't tell the truth on my show. But guess what? So I said I do. What I said, however, I'm not going to dime out my boss if that's my boss. Go ahead.
Whoa, hang on a second. You know what? I have never watched you hold back. You say what you mean what you say. That's my point. She is. She knew he was a cognitive mess, and now she's lying. Oh, no, I never noticed it. It's a
Sean,
it's a lie.
Because, Sean, what
Just
you're trying to...
it's a lie.
Because what people... But because what, listen, I personally, a year earlier, I was saying there's slippage, there's something that ain't there. He ain't gonna make it to the election. Y'all better get with the program, do something about it. I was on the record about Joe Biden, but I'm not a part of the Biden administration. And if I was a part of the Biden administration, I wouldn't have told you that. That's number one. Number two, she's the candidate now. You got to run against her. Are you gonna beat her, Sean? Are you gonna beat her? Are you gonna beat her?
It's a straight up. The American people.
Are you as confident as you were months ago?
The biggest choice election in a lifetime.
I see some slippage on his part.
Stephen A.
He's running the greatest encounter of all time, which is now that Kamala is running and not Joe Biden, you could just like be like, oh, he's too old. He's old. He's skipping a beat. He's missing a step here and there. Breaking news showing bombing in Iran. What the f is going on with this chat, bro? I know, man. I know. We know. We already covered it.
Hey, let me tell you something.
Yes.
She lied when she said the inflation's trans.
Dude, foreign policy nerds are so annoying. Like, even fucking Elent News is not as much chirping as much as you guys.
They lied repeatedly, and she said, "Oh no, the border's secure. The border's secure." Now,
Are you
all
sure?
of a sudden,
Are you sure you want to make the case about somebody lying in favor of Trump?
She never changed her
Sure
position on. She never changed her position on the.
Dude, this is also a fucking idiotic argument because it's like, dude, you talk about Kamala Harris flip-flopping on her position when you're defending Donald Trump. Donald Trump flip-flops on his positions in the same conversation. Like, what's Donald Trump's position on abortion? Asked him 2 years ago. He's excited at the prospect of it getting overturned. Ask him today, he's like, everybody wanted it to be overturned. I didn't want it to be overturned. Ask him about IVF. He didn't know what the it was. In one moment of the conversation, he doesn't know what IVF is. And then the next moment of the conversation, he's the father of IVF. Okay? He literally flips in the same sentence. Like, what kind of metric are we applying here? It makes no damn sense. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You can't be like, oh, Kamala Harris is a flip-flopper while you're a Trump supporter. Like, what are you talking about? I can say that. You can't, Sean.
Green New Deal on sex change operations, open borders, amnesty.
Yeah, my favorite one was when he said, Ashley Babbitt died, nobody died. That was the funniest line. It's like, but it happens so frequently that that was the Univision response when he was like, Ashley Babbitt died, nobody died. Our people, we weren't armed, they were armed. And it's like, what do you mean we? So now you're owning it? Like, what's happening?
Until
when I say we, I mean they, Antifa, but also we, brave patriots that were arrested as political prisoners.
she became a candidate. You know what that means? She is a typical politician that just will say whatever needs to be said to win an election. You get the last word because I like you so much.
Can I retort? Let me retort. Fair enough.
Okay.
You didn't even bring up fracking. You didn't even bring up the border. That's absolutely a valid point on your part. What she's doing now is saying, excuse me, I'm open to compromise. I'm willing to work across the aisle. I'm willing to listen and make things happen. Now, you have a lot of people who are going to vote for Trump, and they absolutely positively believe he will change Washington. The question is, will it be for better or will it be for worse? The cesspool that we look at as the nation's capital, if you got him back in office and he's on a revenge tour and he's not focused on doing what it takes to lead the country, where will that lead the country? You're not bringing that part up. So again, we might not like something on the left. We might not like something on the right. These are the two candidates that we've got to work with. And when you bring up issues in terms of character or in terms of being truthful or whatever, let me tell you something right now.
All right.
You can bring a whole bunch of Republicans and I'll be cool with it. You can't bring up Trump to make a case against somebody else using those arguments. You can't do that.
Look, you know what? I'm predicting that privately you're going to vote for Trump.
Oh, then never. And I told you I'm on the record. I'd have voted over for any Republican but him. Okay?
This is why I said he's a fucking conservative, dude. Look, like, you would have voted for a Republican? Like, what the fuck are you saying, man? Anyway.
These Jubilee roundtables on YouTube, I still haven't quite figured out how it works. But apparently there's like 25 people. I think they do this with liberal commentators too. At one point they'd asked me to do it, but I think it was like this week or next week or something like that.
I want to do it.
I mean, it's worth doing, I think.
Yeah.
It'd be fun. But I gotta say, like, I'm impressed with the people they get for these, to sit on the perimeters. I don't know if they're college students or what. I don't know where they come from. But Ben Shapiro sat down with them, and I think we'll see more of these clips as it goes on over the next couple of days. But what happens is, I think he reads something, a question, and then people run to the chair, and the first person who gets to the chair actually gets to engage for something like 15 minutes or something. Like you can see the clock in the background. And this person, we don't know his name. He is I think he's a Harris voter, but I'm not sure. He first, Shapiro reads off something about immigration. He sits down, and the first thing the guy says is like, "I'm not happy with Harris's seemingly rightward turn towards immigration," but then begins to engage Ben Shapiro, and here's what happens.
I don't believe that it's an economic benefit to the United States to bring in a low-skill, low-education labor pool that is drawing significantly from public benefits. For example, there are very good data to show that there's huge reliance on, say, emergency rooms, educational facilities. Based on the Center for Immigration Studies, there's a net cost to low-wage, low-skill immigration coming into the country.
You're in favor with emergency rooms just deterring people based on what they look like or what might be perceived as someone with a lack of citizenship?
No, I'm very much in favor of limiting the amount of illegal immigration to zero, and then allowing a fair bit of legal immigration.
So you're more interested in decreasing the pool of people and population in this country so there are less emergency room visits, or are you more in favor of actually documenting these people so we're able to track like exactly who is coming through? Like I'm kind of lacking what your argument is.
It's not about number. It's about the people who are coming in. I believe that everybody who comes into this country should come in through a legal mechanism, and that the United States ought to be able to select the people who are coming in who are the best, brightest, and most useful to the American population, because that is the prerogative of any nation.
So do you think that the way that we do allow people in through our legalization process, especially with how much egregious obstacles people have to go through, might incentivize people to come through non-legal means?
I mean,
on average, it takes about 10 years for somebody to gain citizenship in this country. And if somebody is fleeing political persecution, I really find it interesting how conservatives always like to response.
What I found fascinating about that moment, and if I had any note, and I think this guy is exceptional at what he's doing. I probably should replace me. I don't think it could address it better than he's about to. But Shapiro has no idea what he's talking about when he says, do you think the incredible hurdles that are created for legal immigration in this country incentivize people to come here illegally? Shapiro's just like, what? I mean, he either doesn't understand how the question is phrased, which it doesn't seem like, but I don't think he knows anything about the immigration process whatsoever.
Because all the stuff about the process and the legality is just there as window dressing for the right. And they don't want immigration at all. Or I would also argue there's another class of right-winger that likes immigration to be and legal immigration to be as difficult as possible, because they know there will be some migration and people coming into this country seeking a better life or to make money, and that when they're when they're working for bosses, they can pay them lower wages, more benefits. They don't get, have to pay for their health care, right? It allows for them to be exploited, and if they get a little bit too they're not compliant enough, oh, why don't I just call ICE on your ass? I mean, there are bosses that say that. And I just also want to note, Shapiro cites about the drain on our hospital system from the Center for Immigration Studies. That was founded by a eugenicist.
Yes.
There is it's just they have nothing except the racism, and then they build up this fortress of details to make it seem like they're making some real highfalutin point, but that's all it is.
There's a lot more data that suggests that the net is a positive in terms of tax dollars that get paid into U.S. coffers by immigrants who are undocumented and will not see things like Social Security benefits as a function of all the money they have put into these tax coffers. But let's continue here. And I should also say, what constitutes most useful? When Georgia, several years ago, I can't remember, was it 8 years ago now, instituted a policy of severe punishment of immigrants being hired. A ton of Georgia peaches stood on those trees and just dropped, and it was the agricultural industry. It was like, we need these people. we need these people. So, you know, what constitutes most useful for Ben Shapiro? I think it may be actually different from what constitutes most useful.
Kill confirmed. Engagement windows open. Go, go, go!
On average, it takes about 10 years for somebody to gain citizenship in this country. And if somebody is fleeing political persecution, I really find it interesting how conservatives always like to talk about the response to certain behaviors instead of what the root cause is. When oftentimes United States foreign policy is what creates the destabilization of countries, which is why people try to come to places where they can't get economic benefit. I mean, you're lacking, your employee, Matt Walsh, was kind of schooled on this with Ryan Grimm, where he talked about specifically Haitian policy, where the government of Haiti has been destabilized over and over again by Western imperial nations, so that those citizens are trying to flee something with political persecution.
Is it your contention that anytime there's a destabilized nation across the world, even if the United States had a hand in it, then we then have a moral obligation to take in every citizen of that country who wishes to flee?
No, I think that's a huge straw man. I'm not saying that every single person from a destabilized country needs to take refuge in the United States, but I think it's important to add that context. And understand why people are coming here.
It's a case for a different foreign policy. That's not a case for an immigration policy.
The idea is people are coming in here to mooch off of our emergency rooms or mooch off of our social services,
no, I don't think
which is just not true at all.
I mean, no,
that's your big contention for why you're...
That's not my contention. My contention is, I'm not claiming that the intent of people is to mooch off the system. The result of people is that they may be a net draw on benefits rather than a net contributor to the economy of the United States or to the culture of the United States, because I want people who are coming here who actually have some sort of belief in, say, American-style freedoms. I don't think everybody from all over the world has the same ideology.
All right, so he pivots because he knows, and he starts talking about, like, when you notice, I think he knows this is a lie, because he said that his, tax thing said they are a greater draw on welfare and emergency rooms. Well, that may be true than your average, and I don't know how this is measured, but it's conceivable because they're not allowed into certain systems like Obamacare in certain areas, and so they may go to the emergency room. I would imagine if you're an undocumented immigrant, you're far less likely to have access to even health insurance. So that may be true. But when he gets into net, when he talks about taxes, he sort of runs through it because he wants to talk about, the cultural aspects now, right? So it's not really about who's most useful. It's about the culture. And what culture is he talking about? Like, what culture is it that we have in America? Is it hardworking? Because there isn't a shred of data that doesn't suggest that on net, migrants work significantly, undocumented migrants work significantly harder than your average American. Like, I mean, there's just, there's no question about it. You've got people working 2-3 jobs so they can send home a couple of dollars to their families. So what culture is it? Is it like comedy culture? Like, what culture is it that he's talking about?
Culture of people's blood. That's the blood that's being poisoned. And he moves to culture when he's confronted about foreign policy.
Exactly.
Because if you were to ask him, like Ben Shapiro, what would you change about our foreign policy so maybe we don't displace people and we don't destabilize countries, he would have no answer to that because he's, for example, been saying that the United States has been too restrained and should be allowing Israel to kill as many Palestinians as possible. So he wants to have it both ways. He wants a belligerent foreign policy, at least as it relates to Israel, but for there not to be blowback and displacement that could affect the great empire. And so his arrogance is on display by this guy.
Or to the culture of the United States, because I want people who are coming here who actually have some sort of belief in, say, American-style freedoms. I don't think everybody from all over the world has the same ideology.
So you're aligning with Nick Fuentes that, like, a lot of these people just don't have the exact same culture. People don't have culture and they can't come here. I know that you're making that face. I know that he's an individual that you guys obviously disagree. He's somebody that's, like, increases calls for violence against people of certain communities. I'm not saying that you're Nick Fuentes, but I'm saying on this issue particularly,
literally the committee is trying to stab me. So
that's not pain in your face, though. Like, this is the type of disdain I have for the exact ideology that you guys are in.
I don't understand why there's anything wrong with the idea that you ought to screen
people can assimilate
for their viewpoint. Of course, people can assimilate, but you ought to select from a pool of people who are most likely to assimilate. That doesn't mean that everybody has. Do you think everybody on Earth has an equivalent ideology to try and get into the country? We shouldn't screen for ideology at all.
How would you screen for ideology?
Pause it. I mean, I'm glad he's asking this question. Like, what an ideology? Now, what is that? Like, what we have perhaps the most polarized country we've had probably since the Civil War in terms of at least ideologically speaking. I wonder, like, what ideology? What's the ideology that sits outside of where we're at?
Terror.
You can't have a valid, sort of like a communist sneak into the country. I got news for you. They're going to be very disappointed when they find out what a system we have. If they're looking for communal progress, I'm curious as to what ideologies he's talking about.
But this is what
it religious fundamentalism?
But yeah, I mean, like but the certain kind of religion, this is when racists knew they couldn't basically talk about black people and say the N-word in that way or whatever. They moved to, well, there's a problem with the fathers and they've got to pull their pants up, and it's this ideology that is a part of the black community. They've got to be responsible for themselves. So he's trying. This guy is connecting him in Fuentes, which makes, he's so offended. Ben Shapiro is a Jewish person, but he's right to point out that their ideology is much more similar than Ben would like to admit to, because it is, even though he says it's about their belief system and we get to pick from a pool of people, he would probably. First of all, that's not a smart way to run an immigration system, but when it comes down to it, it's basically about banning swaths of people from coming into this country from places that he doesn't like, their ideology. But that really probably means Muslim people at the end of the day, and that's still bigotry, Ben.
Throwing flashback.
Trying to get into the country, we shouldn't screen for ideology at all.
How would you screen for ideology? Like a basic test to show what people actually value when it comes to attributes?
Sure. What would that test look like? I mean, I think it would look very much like a citizenship test.
But this is not determining the ideologies of these persons coming in. This is a determination.
I mean, they would have to understand the basic. No, but people would actually have to understand the basic ideology.
How many US-born citizens do you think could pass a citizenship test?
He got timed out. Oh, because that's exactly right. That they already take a citizenship test, you dipshit. They already take a citizenship test. And it's not about their ideology. It's like, can you remember how many states there are and who the first president was? It's just... Ben Shapiro in 2010 tweeted, Israelis like to build, Arabs like to bomb crap and live in open sewage. This is not a difficult issue. # settlements rock. So when he talks about, I find that ideology of his extremist belief in Israeli settlements to be problematic. And I will be more generous than Ben Shapiro. I think his ideology is very harmful to the country, and he amplifies it via his platform because he's a popular TV show host or internet show host. I would say I would let people with Ben Shapiro's ideology into this country because unlike him, I'm not authoritarian cracking down on free speech. That's not the kind of filtration system that I would use for immigration.
And just to further Ben Shapiro's lack of knowledge or evidence of a lack of knowledge about the whole immigration process, as it exists now, all immigration forms, this is coming from an immigration lawyer, all immigration forms, says Ronald Reagan, and interviews ask about communism and totalitarianism. So when they say, like, we need to screen for ideology, in other words, we need to screen, and we could actually... We can just see it on them.
Yes.
We can tell what their ideology is just by looking at them. And it's it may have something to do with the hue.
That's not good enough.
There may be a hue involved in the screening of ideology. I mean, that guy was great. We'll be playing more of those clips in the future. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.
Bill Ackman, people may remember this guy.
It's funny to call a guy a billionaire investor, like...
No, he's a billionaire.
But, like, that's the thing is, like, it didn't, like, invent anything.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, and there's not even a one major like bet or anything that you can say. You're just like, he had a bunch of money and made more money with money.
But when you say investor, it's like when Republicans refer to themselves as taxpayers. It's like, I am providing value, so I am human above humans. Okay?
But of course they don't provide value. They provide money that people could get if we didn't give all these people money and hoard it, and then they take a return on it.
Well,
that's how they get more money.
I mean, on CNBC, though, it's hard to make that case given the ideological bent of the financial news channel, right?
That's the parasite news.
They have, I mean, Andrew Ross Sorkin here does the best, you know, he's done some good interviews for a financial reporter, right? Based on the exact kind of underlying set of assumptions that Matt outlines there. So Bill Ackman, you'll remember him maybe as the guy who doxed Harvard students who were protesting against Israel committing genocide against the Palestinian people.
I remember him like 10 years ago as the guy who failed to short a pyramid scheme named Herbalife. He lost a lot of money to a pyramid scheme, betting against a pyramid scheme, which is a funny loss to take. Like,
absolutely.
It is
still a billionaire, though.
And not taking any lessons about the broader economy, given that, scams like Herbalife can continue despite heroic individual Bill Ackman saying it's a joke.
Yeah, and if Elon Musk jumping around like a dipshit, as Tim Walls referred to it, or if hearing Peter Thiel talk didn't already dispel you of the notion that billionaire equals really smart guy, here is Bill Ackman again, the anti-Semitism crusader, defending Donald Trump reportedly liking Hitler and saying he wanted Hitler's generals around him on CNBC.
First of all, you were a longtime Democrat. You've supported Democrats. We talked about this. I would say I've always been a centrist, but I've supported more Democrats by far than I just want to read you. This is John Kelly, the former chief of staff of Trump. He worked with him directly. Sure. And he says that in many cases I would agree with some of his policies. So you agree with the policy piece of this that I think Trump is presenting. But he says it's very dangerous. It's a dangerous thing to have the wrong person elected in high office. He goes on to say, in his opinion, he believes that Trump meets the definition of a fascist, would govern like a dictator if allowed, and has no understanding of the Constitution or the concept of the rule of law. He goes on to say that Trump had made admiring statements to him about Hitler, you're Jewish and care about Israel, had expressed contempt for disabled veterans, and had characterized those who died on the battlefield for the U.S. as losers and suckers. How do you get your head around that?
One, it's one person stating a series of things, which I don't know whether...
28 people who have worked for the president, not just in close proximity, but in the Oval Office with him, who have come out publicly and expressed things of this sort.
Pause it real quick, Brad. Like, this whole one person thing, there wasn't one person that said, like, oh, Obama's reading like Joseph Stalin, like party discipline pamphlets. There's multiple people before this. Trump's ex-wife in divorce papers saying on his bedside table, it's on Mein Kampf, which would be the obvious thing to say as a lie.
It would be weird.
But it was the collected speeches of Adolf Hitler, which is like something that I don't think she would know about published unless it was actually there on the bedstand table.
It's very specific, and again, these, Milley coming out and saying this, it is very specific in and of itself, and it's been corroborated, but the Trump campaign is going to deny it because there's no audio of it. But I mean, again, like, this is the exact right line of questioning, I think, that he's approaching Ackman with, which is the inherent differentiation between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. Because if this dude, Ackman, who again targeted like teenagers at Harvard and tried to use and throw his weight around as an alumni of that school, he took out LED billboard trucks with the faces of the kids, often minority students, at Harvard with their information and drove them around the square at the school. This guy's a deranged lunatic under the auspices of saying he's combating anti-Semitism. Here, Sorkin is explicitly saying the guy you're supporting, according to, he's citing John Kelly, but it was also the Milley statement, right? is expressing admiration for Hitler and Hitler's generals. That would be pretty anti-Semitic if put into practice. Here's Ackman defending.
In close proximity, but in the Oval Office with him, who have come out publicly and expressed things of this sort.
Kamala Harris lost 92% of her staff too, but
that's actually, I think that's a relevant sort of.
Wait. Kamala Harris lost 92% of her staff. She had staff turnover. Okay. Did they all leave because she was saying "I love Hitler"?
Yeah.
All right, keep going.
2% of her staff too. But
That's actually, I think that's a relevant sort of point. So if you want to talk about, I don't.
I just piece on that. There are people who would argue that maybe she was not an organized person and was not a good executive in that regard, right? But I don't know of anybody who came out publicly against Kamala Harris claiming that she was for Hitler, that she was against the Constitution, and that she was calling people who died on the battlefield on our behalf loser. Okay, let's stipulate that.
Okay, let me address. So number one, I don't think Trump is for Hitler. Okay, I think that's absurd. Okay.
First of all, why say it? When you know that.
Hey, I get this.
What do you think about his generals?
I don't. Go ahead. Give me an hour.
Go ahead.
Please.
You know it's not true, I say.
So one, Trump's not for Hitler. Most of Trump is Jewish. He grew up in the New York City real estate community. He's got a daughter who's Jewish. He's got grandchildren who's Jewish. He was probably the most pro-Israel president in terms of committing to do things that are executing on them. You know, moving the embassy, delivering the control of the Golan Heights to Israel.
I'm sorry, we have to say it. Laban is wrong.
Yeah.
Which is, I forget how the exact definition, but basically what we called over in America, like room to move your arms.
It's a living space or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Elbow room, as James Fenimore Cooper called it over in the Americas, as we were dispossessing the natives. It's not surprised that, taking territory in war, there's a through line here. It's very, I think, historically difficult for a lot of people to understand on the surface of it. But yeah, like when you have somebody like Bill Ackman, you understand how this happens, where Trump is a documented sort of Nazi furious person.
When he first ran for president, he went to I forget when this was. Again, he's been running for president for nearly 10 years at this point. But he went to a group of Jewish donors and just basically said, "You love making deals," and all that kind of thing. The dude has, I mean, his father was arrested at a Klan riot in the early 20th century in New York City, in Queens. Like, it would not be a shock that a younger Donald Trump would be reading Hitler speeches, given his lifelong fixation on trying to prove his father wrong and maybe trying to be like him in certain ways. We don't need to psychoanalyze this guy any more than we already have. But, I mean, I do want to just put out there for everybody what Bill Ackman represents here. He is dismissive of Donald Trump's clear, red-flashing anti-Semitism, I love Hitler, authoritarianism kind of thing. Because look at what he did for Israel. He delivered the Golan Heights. Don't you see? Because apparently that's pro-Jewish people, according to Bill Ackman. I would argue that continuing to tie Jewish identity to the Zionist project only furthers anti-Semitism. Now, I don't know if Ackman's ready to have that conversation, but at the very least, you should be, if you're a liberal Zionist watching this, and apparently there are a few well-known liberal Zionists that watch this program, one in particular. If you are still out there and you're basically saying that people who are anti-Zionist are anti-Semitic, look at how one of the most public, well-financed by himself Zionists out there is defending the guy who praised Hitler and Hitler's generals because of his defense of Israel. That says everything you need to know, because it's not about Jewish identity.
It's about nationalism.
At the end of the day, it's about colonialism, it's about expansionism, and it's about billionaire ghouls like this guy wanting to take all of the territory in what operates as Greater Israel, but is really the occupied West Bank and the open-air prison that is the Gaza Strip. And when we're talking about historical parallels, you see the images coming out of northern Gaza as they continue to push Palestinians together into these very tiny portions of the Strip, and you can't help but think about the Warsaw Ghetto, in my view.
Sam was talking about that when you were out.
Oh, there we go. And the rebellions, by the way. But the concentration of a group of people and putting them on the diet and starving them as they did in Warsaw. And then there was a part 2 to that. And when I see Palestinian men being driven out on trucks with their hands bound behind them, shirtless, and they're blindfolded, what do you think is happening next?
Yeah, it's extermination. And I mean, people like Bill Ackman, liberal Zionists, have gotten a lot of mileage out of the on the surface contradiction of Jewish people and Nazis. When you put it as Zionists and Nazis, there's actually a historical precedent to this. You can search the Havar Agreement, which I agree with Hassan that it's not great to overemphasize things like that. But nationalism is the problem here. And Bill Ackman is doing Hitler apology for Donald Trump because Donald Trump is the greater supporter of Israel in this election.
Exactly.
That's a close race.
Yeah. Not as close as I think the media is making it, in my view. I mean, I have a whole nother rant about the media is very invested in. It's such a close race. Tune in to our 24-hour countdown clock to Kamala Harris's town hall. Like, I mean, we got to be a little bit honest about the incentives for the media in terms of making this into the. And on the surface, I get it. There are a lot of polls that say it's exactly close, but in terms of there's also a lot of pollsters who were really embarrassed by 2016, and then in 2020, there were issues with the methodology because the people that were being called were all the folks that were more willing to answer the phone in 2020 were more likely to be Democrats because they were isolating during COVID, and Republicans were out and about. But they still got things right. It's just that they thought Biden was going to win by a wider margin. A lot of experts think they're overcorrecting in the way that they did in 2022 for Republicans. So, but I mean, knocking on wood.
I hope you're right about that. Well, one other point I wanted to make about it's weird. Like that party is like both parties of Israel, right? We know this.
Yeah.
It does seem like the Republican Party is like I've always sort of like thought like okay, the Republicans are Likud and the Democrats are Labor.
Yeah.
Right. This whole thing that we got going on, you start seeing a little bit of the liberal Zionists starting to be like, oh, we have to be a Likud.
Yeah.
Like that's the logic of this. That's I think some of the stuff we're seeing in the streaming space is some liberal Zionists are realizing actually the thing that I believe actually those fascists were the ones more clear-eyed about what it takes to actually do this, which is bloodshed and violence and using any provocation to ethnically cleanse a population out of an area. And the liberal Zionists were just in sort of a fantasy land. And now,
but they're choosing.
They're choosing now, and I think it's not a surprise to me that certain people will break toward Likud as opposed to anti-Zionism, and it is a goddamn shame on all those people.
It really is, and I just I know. Oh, hello, Brandon.
I guess
we'll bring those guys in, but. I've been coughing the whole time, so don't worry about it. But I just want to make this one final point there. Just that like, this is where the rubber's meeting the road here for liberal Zionists. And as Matt says, a lot of them are choosing to basically go down the Likud path as opposed to deal with this inherent contradiction where it's like, the Holocaust is one of the greatest crimes in the history of humanity. In the history of humanity. We also committed genocide in Africa, a lot of European
America,
in America.
Maybe one of the greatest by raw numbers, depending on how you tot it up.
Exactly, but I mean, even like the Dutch genocide in Africa, where over a few 2 decades or something, where they killed like 10 million people. Like we don't have that same cultural memory about that, right? And I think a lot of liberal Zionists. They felt that because of the abject, unspeakable, but we speak about it, we have to, crime of the Holocaust and what that meant for Jewish people, that they've kind of constructed because of that trauma an imagery of a self-conception of themselves as inherently anti-racist. because they were the victims of one of the worst genocides in the history of humanity. But what liberal Zionists need to contend with is that that's not actually the case right now, because anti-Muslim bigotry in this country is bipartisan, and with liberal Zionists and with Zionists broadly, it's actually more pronounced. And so I think what's hard for liberal Zionists is that, you know, I always voted Democrat. I always supported Black Lives Matter. I did all this kind of stuff that was easy for me as a Democrat, as a liberal within the context of the United States. But I think it really is cracking at the foundation of a certain self-identity to say, like, but actually, though, you are racist, unfortunately for you. And what you went through in the Holocaust doesn't mean that you don't have to contend with that. And it's not just Zionists. We have anti-Arab and anti-Muslim racism in this country. Basically, it's the most broadly acceptable form of bigotry that I can think of, because both sides of the aisle engage on a regular basis. And liberal Zionists, as Matt is saying, they basically decided, some of them, okay, I'm just going to lean into the racism and say that the people calling it out are the real anti-Semites and bigots. And unfortunately for them, it may feel good for them in the short term, but history is not going to be on their side.
Yeah, and just one, I know we're talking a lot on this, but like what, and people have multiple identities, including overlap of both of these, but what the Holocaust meant for Jewish people and what it meant for Zionists are two different things.
Yeah.
And that contradiction is appearing before our eyes right now. And, you know, that's why it's, I think all the anti-Zionist leaders that we're seeing, like those people are showing the way. And this is a moment right now where people need to reckon with this thing. And there are a whole bunch of people who want to stand in the way of those people having a clear view of like what's just in this world. And I think they're going to lose. And they can be more and more hysterical in the coming months. And they can be in our chat as much as they want. You're losing, guys.
Exactly. And you know who isn't losing are our winners over here, our guests for the This is how you call, this is what a transition looks like, folks. We are in the winning circle. Thank you very much. I'm a professional broadcaster. Matt and Brandon, hello guys.
Here's Brad and Matt, yeah.
Crosstalk.
I'm getting over the flu, so apologies if my voice sounds a little odd. Brandon, what's happening on the discourse?
Well, we have a new episode out for patrons on the Patreon. Oh, I'm not supposed to be, am I?
No, you're back.
Muted?
You're back.
Okay.
It was just a lag.
Yeah.
It was just a lag. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So I have a new episode out for patrons on the Patreon, as well as I will be uploading the first or third and second streams that I did on Twitch, and then we'll also be doing some more Twitch streaming tomorrow and or maybe Saturday. So follow me at Pretty Bad Lefty on Twitter /X, the Everything app, to find out when that's going to be.
All right, the Everything app, exactly.
The Everything.
Where you go for inherently to watch videos. Duh. I mean, isn't that totally intuitive?
It's where I go for everything from like Nazism to neo-Nazism.
Matt Binder, what's happening on Scam Economy, Doomed, Leftist Mafia, all your shows?
Yeah, sure. So Leftist Mafia tonight, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, at youtube.com/Matt Binder. And last night I've been doing a lot of call-in shows lately, sort of just waiting out the election, like before getting into anything more meaty and diving into other things. So just had call-ins and had one very interesting call that turned into a debate. I still don't know if the person was serious or if they were playing devil's advocate as they were claiming. But I had someone who called in to debate, Israel's right to defend itself. That was very interesting. So if you're interested in hearing that and my responses to them, youtube.com/Matt Binder.
I do love, you know, the childish nature of Zionism. Like, they love to anthropomorphize this nation state, and it's like, I don't really think that nation states have character.
They're
but
surrounded by enemies.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why? First of all, like, what is it? Just the religion, or did maybe an exclusive nationalism cause that? And maybe that wasn't the best safe space for Jewish people after the World War II. Maybe we should have just maybe allowed them to say have refugee in America. But
and you know how America ensured that it wasn't surrounded by enemies? We committed mass genocides that we could control the entire territory from the Pacific to the Atlantic.
I wish I had a sound drop of the what's that? Not the emo, not Fall Out Boy, the other emo band.
Panic at the Disco.
Panic at the Disco, because there's one line was Manifest Destiny.
Yes.
It'll really always like amaze me to see, especially this. Obviously, this comes from any sort of pro-Israel or Zionist type, but it always will amaze me when a U.S. official says this. It's when they say something like, the IDF is the most moral army in the world, or Israel is the safest place for Jewish people. It's like, you're literally throwing America, United States of America, your own country, under that you represent under the bus. We don't have the.
Biden said that. He said there would not be.
The IDF is more moral than the U.S. Army, you're saying?
Yeah, well, when you have to say it over and over again, you know that you're like, it must be legitimate. But like, Biden said that. Biden said that without Israel, there wouldn't be a safe place for the Jews in the world, or Jewish people in the world. It's like, what are you trying to say about the country that you're the president of, you moron?
I mean, I agree. America is very anti-Semitic, culturally, and also our politicians. And a lot of that anti-Semitism is manifested as supporting Israel, funny enough.
Exactly. 100%. We'll talk about more of this in the fun half. The number is 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.
Team deathmatch. Eliminate the enemy. Take them out. Nice. We're pulling ahead.
Some of them. Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this video, it was 2014, and a bike taxi was driving down this remote road at night just outside of the city. And on either side of this remote road lay these crumbling, abandoned factories, little more than cinder block walls and crumbling metal roofs. This area had been a place of rumor for quite a long time at this point. Locals would speak about this place in hushed tones, about the disturbing things they heard that had been happening around here. That would become a horrifying reality for this driver when he heard screaming coming from these pitch black buildings on either side of this deserted road. When he began to tell people about this, at first they didn't believe him, but he was so adamant about what he had heard that night, and people had also become worried about, well, there's been reports of a lot of people gone missing around this time. They went out there to investigate. And what they found in these abandoned factories would be pure nightmare fuel. And one of the scariest things about this entire story is it didn't just happen here, it happened in a lot of other places. But before we get into it, please subscribe to see new stories for the dark every single week. Now, let's give it a go. It was on the afternoon of March 22nd, 2014, that a lot of folk were very fearful in the city called Ibadan. This is in southwestern Nigeria. Specifically, it was a group of men known as the Okada Boys. Ibadan is one of Nigeria's biggest and fastest growing cities. It truly has a lot going for it, and about 2.5 million people call it home these days. And in all of the major Nigerian cities located around, it's a very, very big country, are these little like networks of bike taxis known as Okadas. Nigeria as a whole really is a country on the move, being one of the biggest economies on the continent. And Ibadan is a prime example of the country's growing, ultra-competitive hustle culture. These days, Ibadan attracts Nigerians from all around the country, as well as an ever-increasing number of Africans coming from both the north and the south of the continent to live and work. That means, therefore, that, it's very competitive and thriving job market, so entry-level jobs can be very hard to get. So, if you're just looking for work, simply, what's the easiest, legal work to get? Probably being an Okada, getting, this bike taxi to drive people all around the city. Okadas are usually teenagers or young men doing simple, A to B runs around the city, kind of like short little hop jumps to wherever you need to get it. Go, you jump on the back of the Okada, and you're off. And for the sheer amount of Okadas, usually there's like about 100 operating at any one time. They are a surprisingly, close-knit, really tight community. They really always look out for each other, they take care of each other. They meet up constantly, to let them know, oh, hey, there's lots of fairs going on over here. Or maybe you should, avoid that part of town. It's not too safe right now. Everybody is known to everybody else. They meet up at like regular intervals. If something was going on, they put it into the group chat if, something is up. And of course, with a lot of Nigerian law enforcement being sort of kind of hit or miss at best, the Okada network is so tight because they really have to look out for each other because they're not going to get any help or a whole lot of help outside of their own little community that they have created. So this kind of improvised union system, if you want to call it that, of Okada boys, they will, play detective if one of the riders gets robbed, if one of the riders gets beaten up or threatened, they will all just join together to make sure that each one of them is safe. If there's any issues, these boys will, they'll take care of it themselves. They have their own justice system going on. You don't mess with the Okada boys. But it was around this time in March of 2014 that they didn't really know how to solve what was happening. They were very fearful, they were very scared, and it seemed like they were all out of their depth. In March of 2014, rumors of suspicious disappearances have been rumbling between the Okadas for a few weeks. It all began when 2 riders seemingly vanished, which does happen from time to time. People do simply just drop off the radar. Usually they turn up shortly after in a holding cell or even a hospital room. Others have just left for opportunities elsewhere. But to just vanish, without a word and then never reappear, that was concerning. That was always going to, get people's attention, especially if you were part of this extensive but close-knit community of Okadas. They wanted to make sure that each one of their guys was good. So after those first 2 riders vanished, the Okadas of Ibadan, they began to just, keep each other in the loop about what was happening. They would report potential sightings to the other Okadas to just keep an eye out when you're driving through, the myriad maze of streets and back alleys that make up this southwestern Nigerian city. And as is often the case with missing people from, poorer communities, the police aren't kind of too eager to get themselves involved, so once again the Okadas were left by themselves. It seemed like a weird event, but hopefully they would turn up and everything would be okay. But it was when a 3rd rider went missing. That's when, you think the police who were, they were trying to keep them in the loop. You think the police would be jumping out of their chairs at this point to get involved. The 3 Okada riders have all disappeared in this very short space of time. But sadly, that was not to be the case. The police still did not care. And so it was left to their friends and to their colleagues to try and solve whatever weird stuff was going on in the city. It was getting scary now. But right in this 3rd disappearance, they at least had a place to start. But the whole place to start thing kind of made it all more disturbing, to be honest with you, folks. On March 21st, 2014, a rider was just making his usual, routes, driving his regular passengers around to their destinations when he suddenly started getting call after call after call from another Okada boy, a colleague of his named Lanre Sediku. Lanre was asking, can you please pick me up? The rider said, yeah, I've got a couple of jobs, I have to drive people here, here, and here, but as soon as I'm done, I'll swing around and come get you. But when he did, Lanray was nowhere to be found. He wasn't where he said he would be waiting for him. Lanray Sediku was the third disappearance, and worse yet, when the writer, went around, was messaging Lanray's friends and other people, who he'd been in contact recently, nobody had seen Lanray. Nobody knew where he had gone. He had simply vanished. And so, my friends, speaking of hidden things in the creepiest of places, there are some people out there doing just that, but they ain't into, witchcraft or some such. They're into you, tracking and finding you to do Lord knows what with that information. So it's important to remain untraceable, but how would one do this? Well, one simple answer. You got to get the greatest VPN out there. That is NordVPN, who are sponsoring this whole video. Nord makes sure I'm not tracked because it hides my IP address. So rather than people being able to trace where I am on my computer, I can be instead anywhere in the world I want to be. So not only will no one be able to find out what my actual real location is, if I need to get into some data that's only accessible from other locations, I can do so. Time and time again, I come up against this content is not available in your location. I mean, I used to come up against that, but haven't in a while. Not since Nord. For example, you want to access content that's only available in Japan? Use NordVPN, but more importantly, don't want people tracing your location? You bet your bottom dollar you can't do any better than Nord. But it ain't just a VPN, a virtual private network. Nord doesn't only keep your location safe and secure by hiding your IP address with their more than 6,000 Nord servers around the world. Nord also has incredible features like Nord Mesh Net, where you can safely connect to any other device in the world. Or how about a password manager, a data scanner, a dark web monitor that gives you alerts if your credentials have been leaked? Or how about Nord's threat protection that blocks the various websites and ads, it scans files, and it stops trackers in their tracks. Nord's goal is, and it's always been, to make the internet better than it is this very day. Free from online threats, free from surveillance, free from censorship. Ding, ding, ding in my book. The internet, who knows where this is going? You got people being shipped down coast to coast. You got stalkers out there. You got some angry people, but Nord's got your back. So become safer with a click by downloading NordVPN today. And if you use my special link, that is nordvpn.com/thatchapter, you can get an exclusive deal. Love me some exclusive deals. Get a NordVPN 2-year plan plus 4 extra months right here at nordvpn.com/thatchapter. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Nord, it's your all-in-one. Keep you safe on thing. So once again, go to nordvpn.com/thatchapter to get a 2-year plan and get 4 extra months, all with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, so you know you can trust them. Thank you so much to Nord for supporting That Chapter. Now let's get back to this horrifying story.
Hey, dumbass. Mark's been deleted.
The very next day, which was Saturday, March 22nd, 2014, as Lanray's friends and colleagues and his family were going around Ibadan looking for him, another Okada boy from Ibadan got a call from Lanray. But this call immediately sent chills down their spine. He was utterly distraught, crying, pleading down the end of the line. He managed to calm himself enough to say that he had been kidnapped. He was being held with like almost a dozen others in some location. He didn't exactly know where it was, but he said he was being held with these other folk underground. He said it was pitch black down there. He could barely see anything, and this was not good. See, Lanray had been kidnapped, and he had been searched by his captors, and they had found his phone and taken it away. But Lanray, being an Okada boy, needing a phone constantly to do routes and do rides, and there's not exactly a phone charger on his little bike taxi, Lanray had a second phone. But after his captors found the first one, they didn't bother to check if he had a backup cell phone. So that's how he was thankfully able to make the call to his friends, please rescue me. So Lanray told his friends he was being held in a basement or some kind of like underground shelter type thing, and there was others here too, and the others looked like they had been held here for quite a long time. Some of them were missing limbs. Even many of them were just malnourished. They looked like they'd been starved for weeks. Lanray didn't know what exactly was happening, but he did know that he only had a limited amount of time before his captors came back for him. He was also against the clock here because his cell phone, the battery was dying. Fortunately, if there was one thing an Okada was good at, that is remembering everything. So Lanray was actually able to give his colleagues, the other Okada boys, very specific directions to where he believed he'd been taken to. He had been dragged into some kind of other vehicle, but out the windows he could see specific landmarks. So he had a kind of like a vague idea of where exactly he was being held. He said this was in an area that included a lot of dilapidated and abandoned factories and structures on the edge of town. Using his instructions on the march through these abandoned industrial areas and jungles, his friends, numbering in the dozens at this stage, were able to find the exact location he had described. He had led them to an area called the Soka Forest, which is on the southern end of the city. So they were all marching through this forest, determined to rescue their buddy. But up ahead, in a clearing, they could see up ahead, they could see what looked like some kind of structure in the forest. It probably had once been a factory, but now it was little more than rubble. Some walls had collapsed, all the windows had been blown out, parts of the roof were caved in. And just as these Okada boys finally believed they found where their friend was being held, they saw a man standing out front. A man armed with a firearm. And upon seeing the Okada boys approaching this building, this guy with a gun opened up on him. Immediately opened up on him. Shit was getting real. Whatever was happening in this nightmare factory, folks, no messing around. No messing around here. This story sounds so unbelievable. So unbelievably horrific. This is all a true story. So obviously the Okadas were forced to retreat, but they wouldn't be gone for long. The Okadas just left to increase their numbers, get more of the lads around, and to arm themselves with whatever they could. I don't even think the weapons were like terribly important to them at this stage. Their plan was just to overwhelm whoever was in this abandoned factory with sheer numbers. That's how determined these Okada boys were. They were determined to storm this place. It didn't matter how many people were there, how many people had firearms and rifles. They were going. That's a tight-knit group. They brought knives, machetes, baseball bats. One even brought a pair of bolt cutters, which they were going to use to bludgeon whoever stood in their way. But those bolt cutters would come in handy for another reason. That's for sure. So having prepared themselves for a fight, possibly to the death, you can like imagine the adrenaline that would have been pumping through each one of those Okada boys as they walked through these abandoned industrial areas, these dilapidated buildings, through a jungle to get to where their friend had been. They were ready. This could end horribly. But when they arrived to the Soka Forest, they seen the building in the clearing up ahead. It was quiet. And this time it was eerily quiet. There was no signs of any armed guards, gunmen around here at all. They had fled. Whoever they were clearly knew that they'd been rumbled, and the Okadas would be back and back in numbers. That's not to say they didn't find anyone though. Far from it. As they approached the spot where, they'd been forced to turn back earlier because of the guy with the firearm, instead of finding some kind of armed security, they instead found a group of terrified people bound with chains on their hands, on their legs, begging to be rescued. They immediately called the police, and so while some of the group stayed with these poor people who were chained up inside, others went deeper into this abandoned factory to see what they could see. Those bolt cutters, they could have been handy after all. And as the boys waited on the police, they made another truly horrifying discovery. In an outbuilding, like all the area, semi-built and almost falling to pieces, they came across a room that resembled the lost baggage claim of an international airport. It wasn't the only one. Room after room had these floors almost entirely covered with a variety of mismatched personal items. Wallets, purses, coats, even entire suitcases. Literally thousands of them. Tens of thousands. A lot of people. It looked like thousands of people had come through this place. But what? What were those gunmen so eager to protect that they literally shot on sight? And the mystery of who these items belonged to, it would and it wouldn't remain a mystery for too long. It would remain a mystery that their identities maybe will never be known, but why they were there, well, that would be answered pretty quickly. Outside, the confusion of the first discovery was trumped by an even more grim one. To go the graveyard of personal possessions, beginning in the forest right outside the door, was a literal graveyard. A boneyard, to be more accurate. Whole skeletons, skull after skull, femur, tibia, fibula. There was no way to count or even begin to guess at how many people had been discarded here, outside the abandoned factory. These bones stretched from right inside the door of the factory further and further and further into the forest, where they would end up seeing barbed wire. This whole area had been enclosed with a ring of barbed wire. By the time the police arrived, several of those people who had been rescued immediately just booked it out of there. They did not want to hang there. They'd been something true something so horrific they didn't even want medical care. They just wanted to leave, and they would vanish, never to be found. Of the remaining 7 survivors who actually stayed waiting for the police arrived, one was in such a poor physical condition, he dropped dead before the police could even get there to give them help. So that left 6 people, and all of them were taken then to the nearest hospital for medical treatment. The authorities then cordoned off the area, trying then to calm down this furious mob who were, as you can imagine, losing their shit about how this had been allowed to happen and the police inaction, which seemingly led to it. Though the area in Soka Forest was quite far from the main built-up part of the city itself, it wasn't entirely isolated. Within shouting or screaming distance of what was already being called the Ibadan House of Horrors were several private homes that first became the target of the investigation by the police and by the community. Simply put, no one could quite kind of figure out how a slaughterhouse on an industrial scale had been able to operate just on the edge of town without nobody knowing anything. And so when, people who lived nearby were questioned about, like, how did you not report this? Like, what was going on? How did you miss this? The nearby locals were like, actually, we had a fair idea something was going on for quite a long time. We had seen, like, strange people coming and going at odd hours, a black SUV would come and go all the time. Not only that, they'd heard screaming. They'd seen strange lights in the forest. They'd seen fires deeper into those woods. They'd heard chanting. They'd heard noises they wouldn't ever want to hear again. And these locals living near the Soka Forest, they have reported this to the police. They reported many times, and there's something very creepy and scary going on in these woods. And well,
get a UAV
the same thing happened when the Okada boys started disappearing. Nothing at all. One of the most concerning things is that these locals who lived near this murder factory, this ritual killing factory, they reported that they seen a black SUV coming and going at all hours, and they would see some smartly dressed man driving. He had been coming and going for about 10 years. That's how long this slaughterhouse had been active for. He was probably bringing new victims every single day. And so despite these numerous police reports that were made about something going on, something suspicious, no investigation ever actually kind of like spiraled up to, go out and take a look at what was there. As news broke of the Soka Forest discovery, outrage spread among the locals of Ibadan and right across Nigeria, with everyone asking the same question: who or what was behind the slaughterhouse in Soka Forest?
It's terrible. Honestly, it's terrible. It's so painful. The only suggestion I have for this government is this: except there is community policing, permissible community policing, this kind of thing cannot stop.
How the activities of the ritualists are gone unnoticed breeds the imagination, especially given that a residential building is just a spitting distance away.
Why were from the boneyard, from the items that were discovered, hundreds and hundreds, perhaps even thousands of people being taken to the slaughterhouse and murdered there? And the answer, speaking to items they found there and speaking to some of their survivors, was they were being taken there to be ritualistically sacrificed. This was ritualistic serial killing happening here. The people who ran this whole place would kidnap anyone they could off the street, rich or poor, it did not matter. Take them here in that blacked out SUV and ritualistically dismember them right there. Despite the very vocal outcry from locals that was echoed around the country, there's never been a solid suspect or suspects named. In fact, it's doubtful whether there's ever really been an investigation at all. Don't ask, don't tell. A leading theory about why the government didn't want to investigate the Ibadan Forest of Horrors, well, it was because they were in on it. That's why. People were going missing in the city of Ibadan, and the police didn't care. That's why people were reporting, hey, I'm hearing screaming, chanting, strange lights, fires coming from this place in the middle of nowhere, these abandoned factories. And the police were like, great, I don't care. That this was state-sanctioned ritualistic killing, sacrifices to something.
This case is going to be investigated thoroughly, and whoever is found wanting will certainly go to court for prosecution.
But all I'm assuring the people, we should not take the law into our own hands. Nobody knows who did this, and let the police do their job, investigate it, and then whoever is responsible, take him to court for prosecution and possible jail.
See, when the horrific situation was uncovered, rather than cordoning off the site, limiting access to only the most necessary of investigators, and bringing in the best forensics teams from around the country, instead, no, would they do any of that? You know what you would think. No, they went ahead and just bulldozed the entire building. They buried this entire place. Authorities decided that instead of trying to preserve some maybe vital evidence here of some really sinister and sadistic murders happening, no. Listen, how about we just kind of bury it all? Let's knock the whole thing down and just forget about it. The government claimed that they were working to locate those still missing, which was a lot of people. But the community and those who went directly to the site of the massacre said no work was being done there. Some said that the government had brought in, excavators and that sort of thing, in response to the reports of land raid calling from some underground bunker, that they were going to dig up and look for any tunnels or, basements or whatever. But no, when locals would go, they would see that there was there, rusting. And so when they were searching around this place, they couldn't find any underground bunker. Though when the locals, the Okada boys, were looking for their friends, they seen these excavators there, sitting there, doing nothing. They went back, as the Okada boys are going to do, look out for their own. They went back, they got shovels, they got everything they could. They started digging, trying to find their brother, who had been calling from some underground bunker. They dug. They didn't find anything. They searched the Soka forest for any sign of an underground structure, but they never found anything. He said he had been taken here, but they never found where he said he'd been taken to. So that kind of led searchers to believe that Lannery may have been taken to a second location. Yeah, another location, but we will get to that in a second. 2 days after the discovery of the Soka Forest Boneyard, the apparent inaction had caused enough outrage that it became only a matter of time before the anger and frustration overflowed into a response and ultimately violent action. The locals were very pissed off that this had been allowed to happen. Local government representatives tried their best to call for calm, but they were ill-equipped for the intensity of the horrific situation. The Soka site fell into total chaos as the community stormed across the area, turning the buildings over and searching for hidden chambers that had begun as the subject of rumors, but were now being taken as proven facts by the public. Word of the horrors at Soka and the number of victims had spread across the country instantly, and as a result, hundreds of people had poured in from across Nigeria. Anyone with a missing friend or a missing relative from any part of Nigeria or even the surrounding countries came here to the forest in Ibadan, hoping and praying that maybe this is where they'd been taken. They looked through this whole area, they looked through the bones, more importantly, they looked through any of the possessions that had been left behind, of which there were thousands upon thousands. This eventually did lead to rioting. 20 people were injured, several of them seriously, and so that's when the government said, we're just gonna bulldoze this entire thing and move on with our lives. So there was rumors upon rumors about what had been happening here. One of the most shocking rumors was that this is where the local government had been keeping so-called lunatics here. That this was some improvised lunatic asylum. They would regularly do these street sweeps, or I guess whatever you want to call it. We need to clean up the town. So they would just any homeless people they found, anybody basically who didn't look like they should be there, in you get, out you get here. That was one rumor about what had been happening here. Though in fairness now, that was pretty unlikely to be true because of what the survivors said. This wasn't just some improvised asylum. There was some ritualistic stuff happening here.
Some motorcyclists, having lost contact with a colleague, formed a search party which discovered this den. The news making the rounds indicates that this place was a haven for mentally deranged individuals.
5 to 7 explosions reported in Tehran. Planes are avoiding Tehran. Confirmed explosions heard in Tehran. Waiting for more information, but 2 planes seem to be avoiding it. Evidence of potential war crimes collected by British spy planes operating over Gaza could be handed to the International Criminal Court, the UK has confirmed. Press coverage through explosions of unknown origin heard of west of the Iranian capital. World War III or weapons embargo to Israel. Which one's coming first? I'm a firm believer that World War III is already happening. World War III is already kind of happening. Apparently reports of blasts in Damascus as well. Seems to me like a classic case of Israel doing Israel stuff. News update from Iran International English. Multiple explosions have been heard in different parts of Tehran, according to IRGC affiliated outlets and reports from social media users. Is Israel really going to completely nuke the world economy like this? I mean, I think that they have speculated what kind of targets that are appropriate to strike, what kind of targets America has allowed them to strike, and they're striking them. I don't think that they'll hit, I mean, if they hit oil refineries, crazy. Al Jazeera, unofficial Iranian websites, 3 consecutive explosions heard west of Iran's capital, Tehran. I suspect that this will resemble what kind of limited retaliatory strikes that Israel has engaged in so far. Like, it'll obviously be larger, but it will mostly be relegated to military targets. I don't think that America will allow Israel to hit oil refineries or nuclear power plants. The real point of contention here is, like, Iran has said that their retaliation will be swift if any targets are struck that is of energy related. If any energy related targets are struck, then they'll retaliate by lighting the entire region's oil production on fire. America knows this. America does not want this. You say allow like we have any control? Well, we do have control, actually. You should recognize that we have a tremendous amount of control, as a matter of fact. You should never forget that we control everything that Israel does. Why do I say this? It might not seem like it. It might seem like Benjamin Netanyahu is dog-walking Biden on a daily basis, and to some degree he is. But notice how Israel did not retaliate against Iran for the past month, almost at this point, after Iran struck inside of the boundary. 32 hits on target on one of the 3 different targets that they had that they openly communicated they were going to hit. That was a massive you to Israel. That was a major cause for concern for Israel. Why didn't they strike back immediately and lit the entire oil refineries on fire as they said they would? Well, the reason why they didn't do that is because, like I said, Iran said they would retaliate against Saudi and other Gulf area oil refineries and respond in kind, which would completely destroy the global economy. So America kept telling them that's a no-no. Ronan Bergman, New York Times, Yediot Ahronot reporter, says the Israeli attack on Iran has begun. Allowing the oil prices to go up before the election is a big no-no. It's not that, guys. If Iran retaliated by lighting the oil refineries on fire in the region, that would go so much further than just this election. It would make this election look funny in comparison to the devastation it would have on the global market in its entirety. Like, it would globalize this conflict overnight. That nothing ever happens, people would, for the first time ever, realize that, oh, maybe things are happening all the time. It's just that this time it's happening to us. Islamic Republic of Iran state media confirmed reports that explosions all around Tehran have been heard. One of my favorite family members in Iran heard very loud explosions, but they haven't figured out where they have occurred.
We've taken control.
This is the only reporting we have on it so far. At least 5 explosions heard in Iran's capital and nearby Karachi city, semi-official Iranian media say. So I suspect that they are hitting like military targets. Iranian media channels report that at least 10 explosions have been reported in the western region of Tehran. Air raid sirens have gone off in the consular complex in Hawler or Adbil. Amidst reports of explosions around the capital of Iraq and Baghdad. Israel has started their attack against Iran. Fox News can confirm the strikes are meant to send a message of deterrence. I'm told there was communication with the Americans ahead of the strikes over the past several days. Yeah, this to me signals that they're not going to go above and beyond, but maybe I'm wrong. You always need to allow Israel to surprise you. You know what I mean? There's always a little bit of an opportunity for Israel to do some picture from Tehran. Showing Tehran how it looks like when a missile hits this target. Dude, these people are so delusional, man. I genuinely don't understand like how they're so stupid. Like, they guys don't understand. Missiles that were able to strike Israeli military bases are more than capable of striking Israeli civilian buildings.
This strike, according to this senior official, was meant to send a message of deterrence to the Iranian regime, and there was communication with the Americans beforehand as the region waits to see what will come next. But again, the latest information that we have, multiple explosions have been reported in and around the Iranian capital of Tehran, as well as in the northern part of Iran. We don't know the exact targets, but I am told that some of the targets were taken off the list following American pressure. There have been a lot of conversations taking place with top Israeli leadership here in Tel Aviv and in Jerusalem, talking with their counterparts in Washington to determine how to deter the Iranians but not drag the region into a broader war. Now, one other important note here. An Israeli official tells me the expectation is that following the strikes tonight against Iran, there will be some sort of response. Of course, they don't know what that response will look like, but Israeli air defense remains on high alert across this country. There is an understanding that Iran has the ability to target Israel with a variety of ballistic missiles, as they did earlier this month when they launched 180 of them toward this country. And so Israel's top defense systems, including the Arrow 2 and 3 systems, do remain on alert to be able to protect.
The explosions in Tehran came from the western part of the city, where the Revolutionary Guard has headquarters, according to multiple residents in Tehran, including half a dozen Iranian journalists. This is from the New York Times. Okay, so yeah, they're striking like military targets. This is, so far, this is tit for tat, for the record. So far, this is what Iran did to Israel. Israel is doing back to Iran, and I suspect it will probably stay at that level, but I don't know. Like I said, there's always room for Israel to just like go above and beyond. Is the THAAD supposed to be up and running out? No, it's not. It's not. I don't think it's running yet, but it doesn't really matter anyway. I feel like the THAAD also has the capacity to be overwhelmed with like extra missiles. I live in a dorm in the west of Tehran. We heard about 5 explosions very clearly. They even shook the windows a little bit. This was about 25 minutes ago. Some residents who saw the smoke said it might be some IRGC targets that were meant for producing missiles, not official. Oh, THAAD is already operational? Damn, they got that shit up quick. I thought it would take like a month. Like the reporting I read on it was that it would take some time for it to be fully operational. That they just like, it's not like you just send the soldiers in with the systems and then boom. Anyway, it's not deterrence, it's escalation. No, I think that depending on how Israel strikes back, you can either consider it deterrence or escalation depending on how Israel strikes back. There's like, obviously Israel still started it with respect to Iran specifically, but having said that, remember when Iran did the loiter munitions and like some of the ballistic missiles that they sent over, like drones that they sent over, and then Israel retaliated with like a light attack? That was basically Israel being like, we get the last say, we get the last say here, we get the final say here, and everybody understood the message. Everybody understood the message that like Israel just wanted to save face to a certain degree without like greatly escalating. But then they turned around and assassinated Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, which like after some time had passed was a severe escalation, right? And then Iran was like, we reserve the right to retaliate, and they did, and that was also a higher strike than what they had done prior. Now Israel still, if they retaliate by like striking military bases in Tehran, are keeping it relatively calm. If they hit nuclear facilities, if they hit oil refineries, then they're not keeping it calm at all, and they're actually completely outside of America's threshold, I would say. America 1,000,000%, in my opinion, does not want Israel to strike the oil refineries. They do not want Israel to strike anything but just like military targets. So Trita Parsi's pretty good. Quincy Institute guy, very smart guy. Let's see his immediate analysis in this. The chatter is intensifying once more. That an Israeli attack on Iran with significant U.S. involvement and support is imminent, potentially within the next few hours. While the current chatter about a potential Israeli attack on Iran is at its high, it is important to remember that similar levels of speculation have been reached before any actual attack. The uncertainty of these pending attacks, whether they were real or thwarted by various events, including the recent Pentagon leak, adds to the risk of miscalculation. However, one factor makes it difficult to dismiss the current chatter. The window for Netanyahu to strike is closing. The window was never up to the U.S. elections. Rather, it would close several days before the election. The window is then further shortened by another factor, indication that the election are Trump's to lose. If Trump is heading towards a victory and Netanyahu strikes only days before the elections, Israel's intervention will not be seen as tilting the elections in Trump's favor. He was winning anyway. But rather, it will be seen as an effort to put handcuffs on Trump by forcing him to support an escalation in the region that very likely will drag the U.S. into the war, presumably against Trump's wishes. Thus, a move that could be seen as pro-Trump 10 days before the elections may turn anti-Trump 5 days before the election. Add that to the difficulties Israel is facing in Lebanon, and pressure increases further to strike sooner rather than later. I think this is the most significant aspect of this analysis. I think it's because they're getting fucking shellacked in Lebanon. Like when they aren't busy blowing up Beirut suburbs and just like attacking hospitals, killing Doctors Without Borders, medical personnel, or like UN facilities, they're getting absolutely whipped around by Hezbollah. They have all the smoke for journalists, children, hospital patients, hospital infrastructure, banks, right? But Hezbollah is just melting their. As things stand, whenever Israel gets destroyed in any sort of real military conflict, what do? They take it out on random civilians, or they try to escalate. Israel not doing a great job in Gaza. What do they have to do? People are starting to get worried. People are starting to yell about the hostages. What does Israel do? They invade Lebanon. They start blowing up Lebanon. Israel is not doing a great job with Hezbollah in South Lebanon. What do? They have a short window to retaliate to Iran, opening up a new front. So that is what's happening here. I think they're flailing. So they have a shorter window. With THAAD missile defense system in place and operational in Israel, Biden has facilitated Israel's war of choice. By putting U.S. soldiers in an active war zone, Biden is also gambling with American lives in a manner that may leave scores killed from retaliation by Iran or Iraqi militias. This would be the apex of Biden's grotesque mismanagement of Netanyahu and Israel at every turn. Yeah, it's a classic Vietnam-style situation almost. I mean, not entirely, but like, you know, we have our military trainers there. Military trainers explode. Helicopter, boom, all of a sudden you're killing America's soldiers. What do? We got to go to war. War! So at every turn, Biden has supported Israeli escalation and Russia to protect Israel from its own foolish expansion of the war. This is giving Netanyahu every reason to escalate matters further, including dragging the U.S. into the war, and few, if any, reasons not to. As a result of Biden's blind deference to Netanyahu, more U.S. soldiers may soon be killed in a war they did not fight for America and that Congress never authorized. Yeah, so the attack on Iran has to happen, you know? They just got to do it. Now, how Israel attacks Iran in retaliation is what is significant here. It is officially started. We shall see in the upcoming hours what the actual damage is. We'll make an assessment. My speculation, speculation alert, is that no oil refineries or nuclear facilities are being hit, and that they're simply hitting missile production facility or like IRGC barracks, or, you know, they're targeting military infrastructure. That's what I'm assuming. And the only reason for that is not because of some humanitarian concern. Make no mistake, there is no humanitarian concern. There is no bottom to the violence that America will subject the rest of the world to. It's simply a material concern that the United States of America has in terms of if oil refineries in Iran were struck. Iran has said that they would retaliate by lighting the entire Gulf oil production, which is what, like, the majority, if not almost 2/3 of the oil production of the entire planet. They will light it on fire. They will render it useless. This would destroy the global economy. China doesn't want that. America doesn't want. Nobody wants that, right? Nobody. Israel might want it. There might be some horn dogs in there that think like, nah, we'll light it on fire. We'll see the entire nation burn. That's going to be great. It's going to be sick. But like, that's where the big dog kicks in. Now, you have to remember that. You have to remember who the big dog is here in moments like this. Because the reality is, if Israel ran America in the way that maybe was presented, and in some ways America does let Israel get ahead, certainly. But if Israel supposedly ran America, they would be doing just that. Breaking from Elant News, our valued chatter, Elant News. Hassan Abihed in the building. Now that things are happening once again, he's coming in. IDF spokesman, the IDF is now precisely attacking military targets in Iran in response to the ongoing attacks of the regime in Iran against the state of Israel in recent months, in accordance with the guidance of the political echelon. Yeah, it's a family atomics. So yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, it seems like that's what's happening. Israel will go, oh my God, we destroyed their missile production facilities. We own them super hard. Iran will probably go, oh, this was but a light breeze for us. It's not dissimilar to what happened with, if according to plan, if all things go according to the expected outcome, like the path of least resistance, the path of like the most minor escalation shit, then it'll be the reverse of what Israel presented when Iran struck its bases. Now, there are people saying Israel has actually hit a civilian power plant and head on. If that's the case, then that might be considered an escalation beyond what was expected. But we shall see. The IDF statement on strikes tonight. Iran specifies military targets have been hit, i.e. not nuclear sites or oil terminals or leaders of the regime.
Literally got Monster Energy drink in my eye.
Hardpoint locked down.
RCXP maneuvering.
Hostiles have the hardpoint. Hardpoint located.
Toss and play. Let's push.
Hostiles have captured the hardpoint.
Move up. Long gun fresh.
Enemy UAV inbound.
Hello and welcome back to Jarvis Johnson Gold, the premium channel that is free.
Hostile counter UAV
It is free, but
established
if
above.
you're watching this, you're premium. And in keeping with the trend, move your dialer. This time, bad advice. Before, it was like you should base your life on me because I'm so cool. And now it's I'm a sexy bad boy. I'm a sexy bad boy and I make sexy bad boy decisions. Like liking toxic girls. I don't like a goody two-shoes. I like someone horrible and mean. Today we're talking about Edward Talk. Edward has 8 million followers. That is so impressive. Congrats. But what is Edward famous for? Well, we're gonna learn together.
I don't like my girls very cutesy, very demure, very mindful, very considerate. No. I like my girls crazy, jealous, toxic, or else you're boring.
Why do you like that? I also like that he starts the TikTok with nah, like he's in a conversation that we just tuned into. Okay, this was posted this month, and he's saying no more very demure, very mindful. He's saying that season is over. It's fall. Class is back in session, and it's time to be toxic, ladies. It's toxic lady season. TLS. So Edward's the bad boy. He's the bad boy of TikTok. He fits the requirement of being one of these people on TikTok because he's just really hot and he just like looks into the camera and he's like, and then the dramatic music plays. I don't like what everybody is supposed to like. Dun, dun. I actually like the bad stuff because I'm a bit of a contrarian. Bad boy.
If your kitty gets a heartbeat.
Already off board here. I don't want this. I don't want this.
When you see him, get in trouble. Run.
I don't feel qualified to comment on this. I do not have a kitty, so I can't vouch. And also, like, what is your experience with this, sir? A little suspicious.
Most loyal girls attract the most toxic men.
Dude, does he use a sound in everything? Also, are all of his TikToks 7 seconds long? This is absurd. I've got nothing to chew on, buddy. He says like a vague statement with that fucking sound. Literally called everyone using this sound. He's in and he's out. 8 million followers. Okay, I mean, I clearly have something to learn. I yap for way too long. This dude is auditioning for mine. This is impressive, dude. How many loops does this have?
Next time someone says, "Why do you hate me?" respond with, "I don't hate you, because hate is a feeling, and I feel nothing towards you."
I want to find one where it doesn't use the sound. It's like if a supervillain did like tutorial videos on TikTok. Hey guys, what's up? Joker here. Want to know how to really cause mayhem in your city? First, we've got a sponsor. But before we get into that, we have a brief word from today's sponsor. See what I did there? Before we get into that, we have a brief word from today's sponsor, Dragon City. Are you bored? Do you need some way to pass the time? Are your thumbs itching for some phone time fun? You can embark on an adventure with enchanting quests, ancient legends, and mythical creatures in the mobile game, Dragon City. Create your own dragon empire by collecting, hatching, and evolving over 1,000 unique dragons, including dragons of your favorite YouTubers. Look at Curtis's dragon. Construct and customize your Dragon City with magical habitats, buildings, and decorations. Engage in epic PvP battles with other Dragon Masters to prove your dragon's strength and dominate the leaderboard. Unleash powerful dragon skills and strategies to conquer challenging quests and events like the Wizard's Hall. Join a vibrant community of players and collaborate in alliances to unlock exclusive rewards. Dragon City has over 450 million installs. Download Dragon City today by clicking the link in the description or scanning the QR code on screen to get a special bundle with 15,000 food, 30,000 gold, plus a rare zombie flame dragon to get you started this Halloween. This is a limited time offer, so sign up today. And thanks to Dragon City for sponsoring this video. Now back to the video.
He has other women making him smile. Baby, be special. Make him cry. Stay toxic.
Okay, so that's just, I know I said this before, but that's just his whole thing. And he speaks like, he's like Rupi Kaur poems for middle school boys. Oh, okay, no, I get it. Sorry, the caption says, don't actually do that. It's funny because the script of his caption is like about as long as the TikTok itself.
Why are girls' health never at 100%? If it's not her period, her stomach hurts. If it's not her stomach, she has a headache.
This one doesn't even make sense for the sound. This one isn't even you being toxic. It sounds like women go through a lot. Like it's not, there's some sort of like toxic realization. It's just women have it kind of tough.
If it's not a headache, she has cramps. If it's not cramps, she's tired.
It doesn't go anywhere. He doesn't draw any conclusion. He just gives a few examples and he's out. This is honestly incredible. He's making it sound like it's a conspiracy or something. Women have health concerns. I mean, everyone does, really. I'm tired. My stomach hurts. I haven't had the best day today. Okay. I probably didn't eat the most balanced meal for lunch. Stay toxic.
Why are girls' health never at 100%?
Maybe he's just genuinely asking. Maybe this is just him, his genuine curiosity about women. And he's just like, you know what? I've got all these followers. I should just ask them.
You want to be toxic? Send a happy birthday message to your ex.
It's funny because do people follow him because they want to be toxic and this is like their tutorials for that? And they're like, I want to be toxic, but I just don't know how. If only there was some attractive fuckboy online who could tell me.
Send a happy birthday message to your ex on the wrong day because peace was never an option.
I do like that he's like always about to laugh at the end, which is fun because I always laugh when I talk, so I relate to that part.
Guys be like, babe, I feel like I don't exist. Why do I always have to text or call first? Why do I always have to pay the bill and plan the date? My brother, are you really in a princess competition with her?
Lock in, ladies. There's always a pick-me side. There's always the toxic pick-me. It's like, what are you really? This is, I'm noticing some contradictions. It's funny because they always just kind of cover their bases, right? Because there's no real worldview being expressed here. It's just seeing which little audience is gonna share my video or is gonna repost my video. I just love you, dude. You're on our side mostly. Is the bar that low? I do fear the bar is that low. I feel like that's why people watch my videos, especially over here. What am I even doing, guys? What are we all doing, okay? What are you doing here? Rethink your life choices. Or don't. If you want to be toxic, keep watching these videos. Guys, be like, wait, what? Hold on. I scrolled up. He just was in exactly the same room, in exactly the same position, with less clothes on. I don't want to keep scrolling. I don't know where this goes. Can anyone relate? That's the caption. Always a 9-second video. If he breaks 9-10 seconds, I'm impressed.
If I roast you, make fun of you.
Okay, those are the same thing.
I'm never kind to you.
Okay, that is in the same ballpark. These are the Venn diagram is pretty overlapping. Just know that you're flirting. Or is he gonna say, just know I really hate your fucking guts? Can you imagine? Okay.
That I really love you.
Oh, ew. That's a little much. Laying on a little too thick, I think.
You want to be toxic? Remember, no location found means they turned it off. No location available means their phone died.
You're interacting with someone who trusts you enough to share their location, and now you're being toxic on top of that. That's scary. I don't like that. That would make me uncomfortable personally. Also, I don't know if that's entirely true. You're not a IT professional. To my knowledge, it's possible. Want to be toxic? Get a degree in computer science. Work for a decade in information technology. The field. Start a startup. I guess what he's trying to say here is that you can make, you can call somebody out about not sharing their location with you. But is that really toxic, or is it just controlling? I guess being controlling is toxic. Sometimes he says toxic in like a ironic way, and other times he like quite literally, I guess it's not literally toxic. Maybe he is, I haven't met him. But you know what I mean? Where it's like, sometimes it's like a little cutesy type toxicity, and other times it's controlling behavior and you should run away from a partner that does this to you. And I'm getting mixed signals is all I'm trying to say. So maybe he's not an IT professional after all.
Y'all ain't real best friends unless you guys can sing songs together without any awkwardness.
Okay, what? I don't understand. Everything he says is in this tone. Honestly, an air fryer uses the same technology as a convection oven. Except for an air fryer does take a lot less time to preheat. You know, like, okay, I'll file that away. Thank you. He's telling us fun facts in a threatening tone. Want to be toxic? Set up a budget and contribute to a Roth IRA and don't live above your means. And Texture X. He's like a BuzzFeed article with a suspense soundtrack. Let's go to BuzzFeed right now. 18 hilarious internet fails from last week that made me laugh so hard it should be illegal. This is like the origin of the Edward talk over here. This is 2022. This has 1 million likes.
Love him, doesn't like. I really miss him. Baby, what do you miss? The flowers he never bought you? The attention he couldn't give you? The dates he never took you on? You don't miss him. You miss what could have been.
This is so basic, but it's funny because now he's in his ladies. Stop trusting these toxic dudes. We found it. Lucifer's Waltz. Ooh, Lucifer's Waltz, the waltz of the devil. Me and the devil are waltzing when I tell you about how two friends, they're not really friends unless they can sing together and it's not awkward. Ooh. This was uploaded 7 years ago. They had no clue how much toxic advice would be given with this sound. With the first 7 seconds of this sound. I think that now this guy's videos are so short because no one knows what the remaining seconds of Lucifer's Waltz sound like. Now we're seeing the origins here. Here's where he became the 8 million follower Andy.
Okay, who's the fuck is coming?
What? He was like playing a character. Yo, let me see who the fuck is coming. Oh, I must salute.
Putin? Oh.
He's like, it's just Xi Jinping. Oh god, I don't have to zip up my Adidas track jacket for Xi. Come on. I truly don't know what this is communicating. You know what I mean? I just see this and I go, okay. You know, it was an election year when this was posted. It was 2020, so I just have no clue. I have nothing. Things not to do in Russia as an American. Okay, so this is awesome. Good for him. He found his niche. His first niche was wearing a track jacket before he evolved into the fuckboy he is today. It's kind of like opening a time vault.
Send this to the shortest person you know. Why are you short? Did you not drink enough milk, or did your parents forget to water you or something? You should learn how to grow ASAP. Like, it's not that hard. Just put how to grow on YouTube.
Is this a tall TikToker and who stands next to people? They're 6'9", okay. And then he's 5'8", by the way. He looks 12 in this, and it's not the height difference. It is just the expression. He's like, he's got I threw up face on right now. He looks, as they say, very baby girl here. He looks very demure. He has the aura of a 12-year-old. Now, he's clearly an adult. How else could he be so knowledgeable about toxicity? That's something that only comes with age.
Women have tulips.
Wait a second. He's wearing the jacket from his old videos. Dude, I love that. I love the continuity.
Women have tulips.
They're right where we want them. Finish the job.
To tell lies with.
I'm worried. Oh! I don't like that. I don't like that. And I think he meant 2 sets of lips, but because he just listed 4 things. But I know what he means. But gross. No.
If she can go out partying, drinking until 5 in the morning, and then wake up and go to work at 7 a.m. as if everything is okay. My brother, she's dangerous. Run.
This is such a classic thing now, or that I'm noticing, is just that so many things are just like run, right? I feel like this is just like a high functioning person. A lot of people have this phase in their life where they like party and then they like rally and go to work the next day or something, you know? I don't think you have to run. I think she's probably just 23. You know? I think it's fine, actually. If she goes to bed at night and wakes up in the morning, she's dangerous. Run. Okay, this one I feel like I'm gonna relate to. Me going to bed after playing video games. Here we go. Me going to bed after video games. 10 hours later, okay. I woke up after 10 hours sleep, but still want to sleep. He put something in his eyes. This looks so unnatural. Realizing, okay, wait, I think I'm too dumb. Did he not really go to sleep? Did he just play all night? Because that's what I would do. For those who don't understand, that's me. Eddie played video games until he got tired and fell asleep. When he went to sleep, he dreamed about being in a video game and woke up 10 hours later but wanted to continue. Is that what it's saying?
She has a tattoo of a rose.
Run. Okay, let's see. That means she's toxic. Run.
Or a butterfly.
Or a tattoo in general. And breathes oxygen.
Anywhere on her body. My brother.
She's dangerous. Run!
He's dangerous. Run.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. It's a great format because it could just be used for literally anything. My favorite is when he says my bro. It comes out so natural. I don't even think I can say my brother naturally. My brother.
My brother.
Okay, what is this one? Me drinking a lot of water because I'm very thirsty. Am I stupid, or is the joke that none of these make sense, but they're like meant to bait engagement of people trying to figure out what it means? But then again, this has 108,000 likes.
If you see 2 sisters.
I do love these scenarios. I'm always locked in. Okay, 2 sisters.
The short one is the firstborn.
The short one is the firstborn.
You know what Langley expects.
Who agrees
Get
with
it
me?
done.
Who agrees with me? I have trouble with this because that's not something that is always true. And so saying who agrees with me is such a strange. This has 130,000 likes. I think this is me just completely, everything, I'm losing it, okay? I've fallen out of understanding what is on social media. This is like who agrees with me? If you're picking out a binder for your school subjects, foreign language is yellow. Who agrees with me? That makes sense because it's not a thing that's like decided upon. But any 2 sisters where this doesn't hold true are going to disagree. So what's happening? It's just engagement bait. But I mean, I can't knock the hustle. It's cool. It's interesting. I think it's interesting that it is bait because everything is like engagement bait in a sense, sure. But with like short form engagement bait where like literally all it is, the whole of the content is just around something that's like meant to bait engagement. I think it's really interesting. It's like an interesting space. It's just funny how basic it looks.
Ignoring her is only teaching her how to live without you. Men think she's suffering the whole time. She's not. She is adjusting.
Okay, why did we laugh? I'm not responsible for teaching her how to live without me, but she is her own independent person who should be able to live without a partner. This is presupposing that we should be in a codependent relationship, I think. And that's why it's toxic. Haha.
Guys, if she sends you a cute picture, but after 2 minutes you see the same picture on her story.
Why are we laughing? He's laughing at my predicament because that just happened to me. I just got a picture and I go, oh, pretty picture. And then I went to the story and I go, my brother, run. My brother, run. Why run? I got the pre-release. I got early access. I mean, because you can make the same argument about someone like putting on a nice outfit and sending you a picture of it and then going out into the world while wearing the outfit, you know? know? My brother. Run.
Is it actually true that every girl has a group chat with her 3 closest friends that she tells everything to?
It's getting more basic by the second. Is it true that the sun goes down at night and comes up in the morning? Run. The thing about the like hot boy TikTok is that they always have to like look hot at all times, so even when he's laughing it like doesn't look real. I want someone to just like throw that all away and just be like a super villain, you know what I mean? I want it to be like, if she has a group chat with her 3 best friends, my brother, run. 2 sisters can never be different heights.
What else did you learn about doing this?
If she has a tattoo, a butterfly, or a rose, my brother, run. If you hear the violin sound that's kind of high and then it goes into a low violin sound, my brother, run.
Also, remember you can download Dragon City by clicking the link in the description or scanning the QR code on screen, and you get a special bundle with 15,000 food, 30,000.
I never thought this day would come, but ladies and gentlemen, we are back again with another Isaac Butterfield reaction. Honestly, I thought that Isaac was probably just scared of me because it took him 2 years to respond to my last video, but it looks like over the past 2 years, he was just charging up the perfect response so he could come back and destroy me with facts and logic. To catch you up to speed if you don't know what's going on, around 2 years ago, I made a video on my other channel about Isaac Butterfield. Basically, Isaac is like a centrist edgelord comedian who had a controversy a couple years ago on TikTok because he made a bunch of videos about how disgusting he finds women's body hair. It's been a while since I made that video, but I think basically my take at the time was that it's totally fine to have your own personal preferences around body hair, but I think it's cringe to go on the internet and tell everyone how disgusting you find women's body hair. In the same way, I think it's fine to like not be attracted to bald dudes like Isaac, but I think it would be cringe to make a bunch of TikToks about how disgusting you find bald people. And obviously in society, there's even more pressure for women to shave their body hair than there is for men to have full heads of hair. Don't get me wrong, there definitely is pressure in society for dudes' hairlines. I mean, both me and Isaac don't have the greatest hairlines, but like in general, dudes can shave their head without getting a ton of shit for it, but women can't grow out their body hair without getting a ton of shit for it. So just in general, don't be a dick to women. I don't think this is that crazy of a take, but anyway, a couple years ago, Isaac made a response video to my video, and then I made another response video to him, and then he waited 2 years, and just a couple weeks ago, he put out another response video to me. I haven't watched the video yet. I thought it would be fun to just give my honest first reaction and response, and I don't even know if I'll 100% agree with every single thing that I said 2 years ago, but I guess we'll find out. This is legitimately the last time I'm gonna respond to this dude, so I hope you savor this prime Isaac versus Ryan content because this is gonna be the last time that you get it. Anyway, enough stalling, let's get into the response.
Ladies and gentlemen, I had no idea that this existed, but it does. There is somebody calling me out. Well, they were calling me out 2 years ago, but I didn't know it existed until just recently. So I thought, you know what? I can't just let that sit there. I can't let that simmer. I need to go and I need to, you know, do what's right. I need to defend myself, ladies and gentlemen. You can't just have someone talking mad shit. Me and this gentleman, we had a back and forth in the past. We've had arguments. Now we're older, wiser. We look different. I'm talking about this guy. This was him 2 years ago. This was me 2 years ago. Look at me now. Your hair's fallen out. Good God. Look at him now. He looks like a drug dealer who does accounting on the side.
I guess he's saying that I look like a drug dealer now because of my ponytail. And he's not wrong. I actually am a drug dealer now, and the main drug that I sell is black market hair loss medication. So Isaac, when this is all said and done and the cameras are off, I would be happy to sell you some black market hair loss meds, and then maybe both of us can have a full head of hair again someday.
Australia's dumbest comedian. That is rude. That is rude.
I'm sorry, Isaac. That was pretty rude of me to say that you're Australia's dumbest comedian. Over the years, I've changed my mind and decided that you're actually Australia's smartest comedian. But unfortunately, being Australia's smartest comedian still makes you dumber than 99% of comedians. And I have a right right to make that joke because I moved to Australia a couple years ago, so I am included in that list of dumb Australian comedians. Angry American attacks me, which I just found very funny, the thumbnail that he chose to use.
Angry American attacks me.
Because it just is a picture of me looking super happy and then a picture of him looking like he's trying to kiss me. So I'm not exactly sure what the message behind that is.
It means, I don't know what it means. My thumbnail guy made it. What can I say?
I think it just means that you like to kiss angry people. You know, just own it, Isaac. If you're looking for angry people to kiss, America is definitely the place to go. America is the land of the free and the home of the angry. I wasn't angry when I made that video, and I also wasn't trying to attack him. I was trying to criticize him.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we live in the YouTube world. And in the YouTube world, you have to put clickbaity, shitty titles like, oh my God, this angry American leftist tried to grenade my family. Like, you have to put shit like that. Otherwise, people won't click on it because there's 4 billion other things they can click on that day. It's a whole thing. You know about it, I'm sure. Well, do you? I don't even know. You haven't uploaded anything in like a year, so maybe you've given up. I hope you have.
He says that I haven't posted in a year, and then right there on the screen it says that I posted a month ago. This dude really seems to struggle with time blindness. He thinks that months are years. He hasn't responded to me in 2 years, but he probably thinks that it was only 2 months. But you know what? I know that time blindness is something that people with ADHD struggle with, and I am definitely not trying to shame people for that. I don't know if Isaac does have ADHD, but if he does, I stand with my ADHD brother. I wasn't attacking you. I was criticizing you.
For sure, but in that video, I'm pretty sure you said something. So you could say that it's attacking. Don't get me wrong. I don't sound like a big tough guy here, even though I'm 6'8" with a beard. Like I could grow a clitoris and still be more of a man than you. But what I'm trying to say is, you're having a bit of a crack at me, attacking, whatever. We're playing word games here. Who cares?
You could grow a clitoris and still be more of a man than me. That's awfully trans affirming of you, Isaac. We got Isaac, the trans ally over here. But yeah, I agree with you that I don't really give a fuck about the titles of our videos. Like, I said that you're Australia's dumbest comedian, even if you're not literally the dumbest comedian in Australia. And you said that I attacked you, even if I didn't literally attack you. Like, who gives a fuck? Like, every single video that Isaac puts on his channel is him, like, criticizing people. But then when I criticize him, I'm an angry, woke person attacking him. Yeah. I just don't understand it. Are you saying that, like, you're attacking the people that you criticize? Yeah. Because I feel like what I did to you is exactly what you do to other people.
They come after me because how is that hard to understand? Yes, of course, if I'm having a crack at someone, if I'm making fun of them, I'm attacking them. I'm not being their friend.
All right, I guess we're on the same page then. You attack women for their body hair, then I attack you, then you attack me. We're all just attack buddies. But I'm pretty sure that I was calling out your hypocrisy because there have been times in the past where you've criticized fat people or women, but then claimed that you weren't attacking them. But now you're saying that you actually were attacking them. For example, in your Welcome to Fat Talk video, you repeatedly say that you aren't hating on these individuals, you're just criticizing their message.
I can think of one thing more powerful, her fucking waistband. That waistband is so